Hi, I'm Beth. Welcome to my basement yoga studio. Today I'm going to be leading a gentle active practice that is all standing. So let's start by coming to standing on the mat. So as you find your standing position, this is your mountain pose. Mountain pose is what it sounds like. It's a solid, steady pose. It's a solid standing pose where your feet are somewhere under your hips, maybe right in front of those front hip bones or hip points, the ASIS, but maybe a little closer together, maybe a little bit wider, generally facing forward because that's where we usually feel most stable, somewhere in that area. You will need to adjust to find where you feel most stable. So take a few moments now to position your feet. Maybe you sort of rock around a little bit, finding a place where you feel centered, strong. Think of that mountain image, mountain or Tadasana. That's the pose. This is our strong basis for all of our standing postures. You might also think of it as standing in your power. I usually like to do my mountain with my fingers loose, pointing down to the ground as if water is dripping off. Some people like to roll their palms forward with their shoulders back. So where do you feel most strong, most solid in your mountain pose? Perhaps it's more here. That's fine too. In the stand strong practice, we'll be combining holding the standing postures for a little bit of time. There's been research into yoga that shows that when standing postures are held for 30 seconds or more, they can actually help increase bone density. So we'll try to hold our standing postures for about 30 seconds. And then we'll also be weaving in some balance work. So as we hold the postures, we will play with some balance as well. So holding and moving. Let's move now with the breath, breathing in, reaching up with the arms overhead. And overhead might mean here in a cactus type shape, might mean a wide V. Maybe they come above your shoulders. So play around with that. See what position of the arms helps you keep a steady mountain, just a taller mountain. This is called extended mountain pose. Yet we still want to feel steady. So if you feel steady as here, here, those are fine positions for the arms. And then once you feel steady for the arms, we'll add the lifting of the heels, raising up to the tiptoes. So a lifted extended mountain and a little bit of the balance work. Now here you might start to wiggle and shift a little bit. That's fine. The steadiness doesn't mean that we never move. Think of a strong tree that sways a little bit in the wind, but the roots are secure. So allow your roots, the ball of your feet pressing into the ground, lower your heels at any time as long as those roots stay secure. And then when you're ready, lower your arms, lower your heels. So as we play around with our mountain pose and our other standing poses, we'll also be moving the spine in different directions. We'll start with a little bit of a lateral move for the spine, a side stretch. That also adds a little bit of a rotation to it. So I'll mirror you for many of these poses. Take your left foot, cross it in front of your right. Now, if this doesn't feel comfortable, it's fine to keep your legs further apart. And when you cross it in front, it can be further in front. I'm going to keep my legs a little closer together because I can feel stable this way. A little bit less stable than in my two-footed mountain pose, feet side by side, but I can still feel stable and strong here. Breathe in again, so extending in this position, both arms up overhead. And then same arm as the leg you crossed in front, so left arm stays up, right comes down as you reach over to the side. This is the lateral stretch. So as we move into these different versions of the standing poses, turn your attention to your own body, noticing how you feel from your foundation, your feet, your legs, all the way up to the extremities, the extended parts of the pose, and where you feel any stretch. In this case, it might be somewhere in the hips, the IT band, the side lateral. Moving with breath, raise back up, uncross your legs. Finding a stable mountain in the middle. You don't have to hold it long, but restabilizing. And then cross your right leg over front of the left, if that version feels good for you. Again, sweep both arms up and overhead. Right arm stays up, left arm comes down as you reach the lateral on this side. Again, with your feet in this position that we don't usually stand in on a regular everyday basis, you might feel a little wobbly, and that's okay. If we're able to reestablish our steadiness, our firmness within the wobble, that's really important. Next breath, reach up with the top arm, draw your torso back up, uncross your leg. All right, so that was mostly a lateral side-to-side stretch. We'll add a little bit more of a twist. I'm going to turn sideways to show you this. So this is going to be a little bit of a twist with also a little bit of a forward bend. For the forward bend part, where I'm going to bend from is right at the top of where my thighs meet my pelvic joint. So a little hip crease, I'm sending my butt back. So hopefully you can get a good sense of that. You can lean over a little bit or a lot in this posture. I'm going to take my arm closest to the camera, closest to you, and place it on my hip. So this is my left side. And then I'll start to bend the right knee more as I open up to this left side. The left leg might straighten a little more or might stay bent, but I'm really getting a lot of bend in the right leg to give me the space to move in your direction. And my hand is gently resting on the top of my thigh. If I want to, I could slide down more with my elbow, more on the top of my thigh. I also have the option of reaching the top arm up. So if you chose some of those different options, really notice how it feels for you. Does this version still allow you to feel strong, or did you feel stronger here? Both are fine. Right now, we're really trying to emphasize the strength. So I'd encourage you to choose the place where you feel really strong. And then on a next breath, turn back toward front first, and then lift back up. So rather than twist away from you, I'll turn around. We're going to do the same pose on the second side. So remember, we sent our bottom, our hips back a little bit, and a little bit of a mini squat or mini chair pose first. You can lean over a little more if that feels comfortable. Start to put your hand closest to the screen on your hip. That might be it's my right. Let that leg straighten a little bit. It doesn't have to come all the way straight. As you bend the opposite leg, you can rest your hand there and turn your chest, your torso in that direction. So you're revolving around the middle part of your spine where your ribs are. That's your thoracic spine. And then remember, once you're in this basic shape, doesn't have to look like my shape, but your basic shape, you can play around with, does it feel better to lean a little further? How about a different position for your head, your neck, looking up, looking down? Maybe the top arm wants to reach. Maybe that feels like a nice, strong, good stretch. And then when you're ready, turn back toward your legs, push into your feet, your foundation. Use that to lift yourself up. Turn back to front again. This time I'm going to take my feet a little bit wider than hips. So we're going to play around with a few versions of this mountain. You might call this a wider mountain. If we turn our toes out, we can also call it goddess pose. Your toes can be parallel or more out to the side. So you play with that. See how that feels. Do you like the toes face straight toward the screen? Do you feel a little bit more secure with them, the toes a little more out? Find your solid position here, and then we'll raise the arms out in a T. So we're going to do little mini windmills. You may have done these growing up in your physical education classes. It's going to start similar to the last pose in that we'll start by hinging from that same hip crease point. And then when we get to, I don't know, maybe I'm at about 45 degrees, I'm going to start turning toward the right, again, mirroring you, reaching my left arm toward my right leg, any amount. So maybe that amount is that it stays in center. Maybe it touches the top of my thigh, my calf. If you want to reach further, if you have a block, maybe you reach down for the floor. But remember, we're not going for maximum, we're just going for where can I feel very strong here. So this feels like a nice strong pose for me. We'll hold just another breath or two on this side. Remember that we're trying to hold for about 30 seconds per side. I'm not timing this exactly. And then on your next breath, center yourself, move the body back up, and we'll go to the second side. So fold, start to turn, reach, and rest the bottom hand wherever feels right to you. The top hand doesn't need to stay in the air, just like on our other twist. It can come down to the hip. Notice if when you twist to the side, does your hip want to come to that side? There's nothing wrong with that, but you'll notice I'm not as steady and even between my 2 feet now. I'm going to shift so my pelvis is back towards center a little bit. One more breath on this side. And then exhale. Lift back up. Let's do one more on each side, this time moving through it, keeping stable and strong in our feet as we move with the upper body and torso. Moving with the breath, take a breath in. As you exhale, start to fold forward, twist to your right side. Inhale, come back up through center, and rather than coming all the way up, we'll twist through the left side. And then inhale up through center and all the way up. All right, we'll take the feet even a little wider. So this is about as wide as your feet go and feel stable still. So this is your wide-legged position for your wide-legged forward fold. We're going to take this position in a few minutes when we come into some of our standing postures. Toes pointed relatively parallel, relatively toward me, if that works for you. And then from here, we're going to do a similar little forward bend release. We're not necessarily going to come down to the floor, but we're going to combine this with a breath practice. And the breath practice is lion's breath. So a warning, lion's breath looks very goofy. The idea is when you breathe out, you let your tongue release out. You also let your eyes kind of roll up in the back of your head, but you expel all the stale air in your body. And hopefully doing this lion's breath, you also feel really strong and powerful. So I'll show you just the breath first, a natural breath in, and then you also make a ha sound. So as you breathe out, it's like this. Looks goofy, I know, but I'm doing it. You can do it too. So then we'll combine that with, we'll breathe in, and as we exhale out, we'll do a little bit of a forward release. Not hard, just gentle. Hands can rest on your thighs. So you can watch me for the first one. I'll show you one, and then we'll do it maybe 3 more times. So here's the demo one. Breathe in, exhale, and release with the lion's breath. So that's where we're going. You can add your hands into it if you want. Breathe in. 2 more in. And 1 more. Breathe in. Big breath in. And release your arms if you are using your arms. So heel toe your feet back in toward together. And when you reach your mountain pose, take a moment to assess how that is for you. Breath work can produce changes in your energy levels, can make you kind of feel some circulation throughout your body. So see if you feel anything. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. And then when I turn back to the side, actually, I think I'll turn to this side first. I'm cheating because I'm putting my left foot in the front, which tends to be my better balanced foot. We'll see. So left foot in front, right foot is going to step back, heel up. So this is our crescent lunge position. So it's asymmetrical, your heel is up, it's probably going to feel wobbly, and that is okay. In fact, we're going to take a moving version of this, so you're not going to be staying just in this static position. We're going to be moving and balancing. So find this position first. Your torso and hips are pointed forward. You're sending your knee down pointing down to the floor, but your back leg is as straight as feels comfortable. Front knee bending over front ankle. And you can see if I let this knee sort of wobble or collapse inward, I'm going to feel less stable. So I want to put the knee over the ankle in a position that feels pretty stable for me. And then what we'll do is we're going to take a knee lift and a cat-cow movement into this posture. So I'll show you. I'm going to lean forward a little bit, same hip hinge, and either drag the foot forward. So you might drag it forward like this, or you might gently lift. We're not going to do it this slow. This is just a demo, up into a knee lift. And maybe your foot stays down and just the heel comes up, and that's fine. We'll curve the upper body into a little bit of a cat shape as we do this. So I'm going to take the knee lift. And then as I send my heel back, I'm going to come back into the crescent lunge, heel up, reach my arms up and overhead, and maybe a little bit of a back bend. So now continuous, lean forward a little bit, drag the knee in and up, little rounded shape. And you can see I'm struggling to keep my balance in this. It's not easy, especially not talking. And I'll take one more, leaning forward, dragging the knee up, coming into the cat shape, and then back into crescent. A lot of work on my glutes of the front leg. Release your arms. I'll turn toward the front. You can just switch legs on that side if you prefer, and then turn toward the second side. So left leg is back, right knee is over the ankle, and you can see I'm wobbling more on the side. I told you my right foot is a little bit less inclined to balance as easily as the left. So I'm going to take a few moments and find the width of my legs that help me to maintain that balance a little bit more. I'm going to concentrate on putting that back heel away from me, sinking my hips, my pelvis down toward the ground. And then I start with my hands at heart center because I feel stable there. As I lean forward, begin to lift the foot or drag the back foot so that I can get the knee up, take my little cat curve, or you can be here. This is good too, with your little arch or rounding to the back, a little rounding into a cat shape. And then an exhale, step back, and your step back might be 1, 2, 3. It's all good. Arms up overhead if that feels okay. Maybe a little bit of an upper back bend. And we have 2 more. A little lean forward. And you see I took an extra step there and an extra step there, and it's all good. And then I'm going to take a step or 2 to get back. As I'm trying to strengthen the foot that's weaker, a little more of a challenge. If I was doing this practice on my own, I might do a few more on this side, knowing that my balance is not as strong on this foot. Down, totally fine. I'm just going to come right back up into it, try to stabilize as I get here. And then exhale, back into the pose. See if I can find a stable pose. I don't feel wobbly as I finish. So this is my nice stable pose here. And then exhale, lower my arms. Turn my feet back around to front. I'm going to keep those wide feet. We'll do a warrior 1 and a triangle pose standing. One more little balance thing, and then we'll finish out this standing practice. So here your feet are in the wide position, that basically about as wide as you can be and still feel stable. Sometimes for standing postures, people have their feet a lot closer. So when we do the postures like this, again, this is not bad. You can try it that way and see, does that really feel better? It might feel more constricted in your torso as we start to move, so you can practice. I'm going to take mine a little bit wider, and I will mirror you for these postures. So we'll turn our left foot out. So it comes out so it's facing the same direction as the long part of your mat. Right foot, or the back foot, turns in just a little bit, so it's not quite exactly even to the back of the mat. And then just like we did for our crescent lunge, we'll bend that front knee so that it comes somewhere over the ankle. And as you see as I do this, I'm kind of scooching around my foot, and that's me trying to find the place of balance. This is our warrior 2 shape for our legs. I'm getting a stretch across my pelvis, my inner thighs, My torso sides are long, upright, right over my pelvis. So warrior two, the classic shape is with the arms out like this. And you can maybe feel the sense of this being a warrior as you look over your front middle finger. Yet this is also warrior two. And this can feel like a really strong superhero warrior two shape. Or this. Or this. Or more the classic shape with palms up. So stand strong in your strength. Another breath or two in your warrior two. And then bring your hands down, straighten your front leg, and we'll move into triangle pose. So you'll notice my legs didn't move. I'm going to try to keep that same length in my side bodies as I tilt my pelvis. So front part, the left moves down, the right moves up. I take my arms out in a T shape, but I don't want to lead with my arms. I'm really leading with the crown of my head. Hopefully you can see my side body staying long. Try to smooth my t-shirt so you can see that. And then I'm not trying to get all the way to the floor. That kind of gives me a curved shape that I don't want. I'm keeping my torso pretty upright here. And maybe I even keep my top hand on my hip. This feels nice. You can see here the triangle in my legs and also the triangle shape here. My arm, my side, my front leg. With my arm like this, triangle here. I think there's something like 19 different triangle shapes in triangle pose. Feel how the energy of the pose builds as you hold it. And then exhale, push into your feet. Remember, that's your foundation. You're rooting into your feet to rise back up. We'll switch the direction of our feet. So now the back foot, your left foot, comes parallel with the short edge of the mat and maybe tucks in a little bit. The front toes turn all the way out in the other direction. So this is our position. This is a position for most standing poses, some version of this. We'll bend your front right leg so that the knee hovers in a stable position somewhere over the ankle. It might be a little bit more forward for you, a little bit less bent. And you can, just like we did at other positions, you can move around and feel how that feels, where that is for you. You can shift your torso around and see sometimes we see a lot of leaning in warrior two. Nothing bad. This is kind of like a half warrior two, half side angle shape. See how it feels to upright your torso, and does that feel more stable for your lower body with that balance between both feet? And you can always decide to keep your hands completely down, really just feel the energy in the lower body. Maybe this is a day that you're not into working the upper body, and that's good. Maybe you reach out across the chest. I do these cactus arms a lot. I like the openness that it feels across the chest. You can always have hands at heart center, and you can turn this way, and open the hands. And notice as we play around with all these different hand positions, we are letting the energy build in the lower body. I'm sure we've held this for more than 30 seconds on this side. As you exhale, you can bring your arms down, push into your front foot to straighten this leg, and we'll move into our triangle. Think about the lengthening of your side bodies, that little tilting of your hips and your pelvis. So I'm pretty much in triangle position right now. This is a fairly upright triangle, but I'm starting to go in that direction. My triangle could be right here for today. Could be right here. Or if I feel like I can maintain this space, this length, I might lean into it a little bit more. One of the arm positions I like is taking the back of my hand, pushing against my leg, because I feel like that helps me open up my chest a little bit more to the sky. So I feel nice and strong and stable and open in this version of triangle. Your version might be a little different. On days that my shoulder is bothering me, especially this is my right side from mouse use, sometimes resting a little bit more here feels better. The direction of your neck can change as well. And then push into your front foot, rooting down to rise your body back up. Turn your toes center, heel toe your feet in, and you'll see that means I wiggle my heels, wiggle my toes, heels, toes. Come back in. One more little series and then we'll be done with this practice. So find your mountain pose again, mountain pose legs. And remember that when I was turned side, I said we did like a mini chair pose. We're going to do that again. With your feet strong, stable, pushing to the floor, bend at the knees and send your hips back. Now, whether you're more bent forward, upright in chair pose really varies where you're going to work. Right now, I'm more upright. And so I'm taking the energy out of the knees. If you have knee problems, your chair might stay more upright. I can feel this more in the front of my thighs and my shins. My quads are working. If you lean a little bit more, send your bottom back, you're going to feel that more in your back body. So you decide, I'm going to step a little bit forward to the front of my mat. So with chair pose, I'm going to unweight the heel on the left side. I'm mirroring you. I'm going to step it back about a foot. So more toward the back of my mat, maybe just off my mat. And so here we have the option to come into Warrior 3. To come into Warrior 3 from here, I'm going to start to lean forward as I lift my back leg. And I actually feel more stable in this pose, keeping my hands at heart center right where they are. They can float back. You see that that brought me out of balance, but the hands can float back into a super person. It can be a superhero with the arms forward. It can be more of an airplane. And then as you exhale, see if you can bend the front knees, slowly take that back foot down into chair. Stand up and right back into it on the second side, into your chair pose. Unweight the heel of your right foot. Touch it back a little bit, maybe a foot or so as you lean forward a little bit more. So I like to have that leaning as I lift and straighten the back leg. The bottom leg can come straight, but make sure the knee isn't completely locked. It can be strong without going into a hyperextension. Your hands can stay on your thighs. If you have blocks here, you can have a supported split pose. Or as I said, I kind of like them at heart center. And then one more strong breath here. As I exhale, I'm going to bend the front knee, slowly bring the back foot back into my chair, push into my feet to rise up strong. All right, to finish, find your mountain pose once more. See if you notice anything different from the beginning. So I kind of noticed a little bit of my blood is pounding. That was a little bit of a work for me, especially talking as I was going through some of that balance. So this might be one of my practices, my gentle, active practices that are a little more on the active than the gentle side. And yet by gentle, I also mean gentle on yourself. There's no need to force any of this. No need to say, I didn't do this right. I wasn't strong. You can have a whole practice here, just balancing on your 2 feet and standing strong in your mountain pose. And I encourage you to finish your practice in a way that you do feel strong and stable once more. If you felt unbalanced during this practice at all, find your balance. Maybe it's standing in your full power pose. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this practice left you feeling really strong, and I hope to see you again. Take care.